the scenario. You are on a road trip from Little Rock, Arkansas to Charlotte, North Carolina. All of a sudden, your phone dies, you didn't bring your charger, and you no longer have access to Google Maps. What do you do? That's right, you may have to go old school and get out a paper map, if you have one, of course. You never know when your map skills will come in handy. Not only will your map help you reach your destination, you can determine the distance between your starting location and your destination using a very simple tool on your map. So if you don't want to be stranded someday between Little Rock and Charlotte, I suggest you listen closely. So once you find your paper map, you need to look for the map scale. Every good map has a map scale. A map scale compares a distance on the map to a distance in the real world. For example, you can't unfold a map that would be identical to the real world. It would be ginormous. So in order to get your map to fit in your pocket, they use a map scale. This particular map scale contains miles, MI, and kilometers, KM. Miles are located on the top, and kilometers are located on the bottom. According to this map, if you are looking at the top numbers, from the start of the red and white line to the end is equivalent to 400 miles in real life. Same goes for the bottom of our scale. From the start of the red and white line to the end is the same as 400 kilometers. One important thing to note here is that each map has its own personalized scale. You couldn't use this scale on any other map. So we need to use this map scale to find the distance between Little Rock, Arkansas and Charlotte, North Carolina. In order to use the scale up on our map, we have to copy the scale onto a scrap piece of paper. I would advise copying both miles and kilometers from the start because you never know what your question or scenario will require. All right. Now that you have your map scale copied down, you need to determine a good route to take from your starting location to your destination. Once you have figured out your route, place your copied map scale on your map. The 0 on the scale should be perfectly lined up with your starting location. The rest of your scale should angle directly toward your destination. As you can see, our scale isn't long enough to reach from our starting location to our destination. In order to properly measure the distance between the two, we need to mark on our map where the scale ends. In this case, I simply placed my pencil on the map where my scale indicated roughly 400 kilometers. I then kept my pencil still while I moved the 0 of my map scale to the location of my pencil. Our map scale still doesn't reach Charlotte, North Carolina, but we did travel another 400 kilometers. So 400 kilometers plus 400 kilometers equals 800 kilometers. It appears that I need to move my scale once more before reaching Charlotte. Again, I place my pencil on the map at the end of my scale. I then move the scale so that the 0 is at my pencil. By doing this, our scale is able to reach Charlotte, North Carolina. According to our scale, we have traveled about 200 kilometers. So we had already traveled 800 kilometers. We add 200 kilometers and get a total of about 1,000 kilometers from Little Rock, Arkansas to Charlotte, North Carolina. So let's recap in real time. I line up my scale starting at Little Rock. I mark 400 kilometers with my pencil. I then move the 0 on my scale to my pencil. I mark 400 kilometers again and move the 0 on my scale in line with my pencil. Finally, my scale reaches Charlotte and I've gone an additional 200 kilometers. As you are using the map scale, I suggest you write down the distance you have traveled each time you move the scale. So for this scenario, I would have written down 400 kilometers plus another 400 kilometers and then an additional 200 kilometers. As you can see, this gives us a total of about 1,000 kilometers. Let's try it now with another map scale, and a different starting location and destination. We are going to find the distance in miles between Dayton, Ohio and Columbus, Ohio. Just like before, we need to copy down our map scale. Keep in mind, since we are using a different map, we must recopy our map scale because each map scale is created for a specific map. Once we have our map scale copied down, we need to line it up on our map. The 0 of our map scale needs to be on our starting location, in this case, Dayton, Ohio. The rest of the map scale needs to be angled towards our destination, Columbus, Ohio. Since we are traveling a shorter distance, our map scale reaches our destination immediately. Now, here's the kicker. Columbus isn't exactly lined up with any number on our map scale. When a scenario like this occurs, we simply estimate. I like to make estimation lines directly on my map scale. As you can see, I have added a 75-mile marker to my scale. I saw that Columbus landed between 50 miles and 100 miles. I know that halfway between 50 and 100 is 75. I estimated where the 75-mile marker would be on my map and drew a line. Now I have a better tool to use when estimating. I know Columbus is not 50 miles from Dayton, nor is it 75 miles from Dayton. Therefore, I will estimate that Dayton and Columbus are anywhere between 60 and 65 miles apart. In this case, I will say Columbus is about 60 miles from Dayton. You never know when your paper map and map scale will come in handy. Now, if you're on a road trip and something happens to your phone, all is well.